to Morning Coffee on Radio Vision Network. This is Reputation Rap. Once again, I'm Gary Frisch with Swordfish Communications, here with Biz and Mark. Mark's looking very patriotic today for the Independence Day weekend. Love the tie.
Thank you. This is from the Tommy Hilfiger Patriotic Collection. It features the stars and stripes. This little flag bow tie here, being patriotic. Now I've got the American flag belt buckle as well. It's all coordinated out. I am extremely patriotic, feeling very, very patriotic on this 4th of July, eve of the 4th of July weekend. We'll put it that way. That sounds right?
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever.
They get what you mean.
Yeah, right? They pick it up what I'm putting down. That's cool.
Yeah.
And what better time to talk about public relations than on Independence Day weekend? I don't know if that's a very good segue. I don't think so.
Well, of course it was, because you realize that the whole the Declaration of our independence was all about public relations, right?
Good point, Mark.
It's perfect.
We talked last week about the Boston Tea Party being
Right.
a very early public relations
That's right.
stunt. But anyway, I want to talk about a little bit about the very nature of public relations and what it is, because there are some things going on in the news that we'll bring up a little bit later. But public relations, by definition, and the Public Relations Institute just recently, well, not so recently, a few years back, revised their definition of public relations. And basically what it says is that public relations is a two-way communication process that is mutually beneficial to both sides.
Right, and that's a
So-
shift, because they used to think that it was strictly coming from the company side.
All about the organization.
Right.
You're out there with a loudspeaker. These are your messages, and that's the deal.
Right.
Nowadays, and going back several years, actually, getting the feedback from your audiences is equally as important to the process of public relations. And so you want to be mutually beneficial. You want to get your messages out, but you want to make lives better for your target audiences, whether that's through information, whether it's through products that can help their lives, tweaking those products that you know that they like. Apple is a perfect example of
Right.
a company that listens to its consumers and comes back and comes up with new products to meet what they perceive to be the demand of their constituents. But back in the old days, Mark and Biz, you had to rely on kind of gut instinct, how people were responding to your company, and maybe there was an occasional letter to the editor, or you just kind of got the sense somehow through the tea leaves that customers weren't happy with your business. But nowadays, obviously with social media, there's no excuse for a company to not have their finger on the pulse of what their constituents, be it customers, parents, policyholders, whatever, are thinking about the business, because you just have that immediate method of feedback. And it's so important for organizations to follow social media, to look for their name in social media tweets and such. And we talked about crises before. We're going to talk about crises a little bit later too. But you can avoid crises altogether if you can get an idea of what consumers are thinking before it becomes a major issue.
Right. It's kind of interesting, because I deal with the companies that I have services with a lot, right? The old way used to be, and I'm thinking about my cable company in particular, the old way used to be to pick up the phone and wait on hold forever, and then finally you talk to somebody, and it used to be a terrible experience. Well, recently when I had an issue, I went to Twitter, and I contacted them on Twitter, and let me tell you, they responded faster. They fixed my problem faster.
Mm-hmm.
Everything worked better contacting them through Twitter than it did the old-fashioned way by picking up the phone.
Yeah, and it works. I was skeptical myself a couple of years ago, but it's worked for me a couple of times. One time with Nissan Motor Acceptance Corp, I was getting a lot of spammy-type phone calls from them because they thought that I had an account when I never did. And in fact, I couldn't get rid of these phone calls, so I went to Twitter. And I cited them in Twitter, and next thing I know, I got a response from a customer service executive, ensuring that I would be removed from their list and acknowledging their error.
Because it's public. Because everyone else can see your issue with them.
And I also think that it's also on the kind of flip side
of it. When you're dealing with previously where it's just mail-ins or call-ins or things like that where you're having a way to speak with people, the only people that are willing to generally do that are people who are really, really upset.
Yes.
So you were
Right.
going to get a ton of customer contact, but the feedback's going to be all negative based off of a bad experience, more so than I think now people want the possibility of a retweet or a share of a comment. They want that attention. So it's a lot. People will say, "Oh wow, take a picture. This was great. This was great food," or "I really enjoyed, using this app." Like people are more. They communicate the positives, not equal to the negatives, but you're going to get a lot more positive
Yeah,
feedback.
and it's a very passive way for consumers to get their thoughts out.
Yes.
And they don't have to mail a letter, for example. And so you're right. There are more positives coming along that companies can be aware of than the negatives. And regardless of whether that feedback is positive or negative, a good organization is listening. They're using that information for what I call the feedback loop before. They're using that, particularly the negative, to tweak their messaging or tweak their offerings a little bit,
Right.
and to develop new campaigns, marketing and PR-wise to, better engage those audiences. Now, in terms of crises, if your company is being used, if your company name is coming up, once or twice on Twitter in a negative way, that may not be an issue. But if it's significantly more than that,
Right.
And then possibly becomes a trending hashtag,
Yeah.
then there's a problem that needs to be addressed.
Does this change the responsibility on the consumer at all? Is this a situation that, as a consumer or a user of certain services or products, that I have to approach how I view or interact with the company differently?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a degree of ethics involved. For heaven's sake, you can't indict an entire corporation because you got a cold hamburger at your lunch
At a
that
fast
day.
food place, right?
To do so and to try to create a firestorm because that is a little bit overkill. So I think consumers, they do have a responsibility to kind of pick their battles a little bit and go out there publicly when the issue is significant. And the company should respond if you get a cold hamburger, and they see it in Twitter. They should come back with a coupon for a free meal or something
Right.
as well. Something simple.
Yeah, and then also missed opportunities regarding social media where there's been events, for instance, when Beyonce came out with Lemonade. And she mentioned, well, no, not Lemonade, what was it? It was the, what song? It was one of the songs that she,
Lemonade,
it was
wasn't it?
Lemonade, but she,
Yeah.
oh yeah. And she mentioned Red Lobster. And the Twitterverse was just shocked.
They went crazy.
That Red Lobster, where are you? Who's managing your social media?
Yeah.
Why aren't you capitalizing off of the fact that Beyonce mentioned you in a song and they had a complete missed opportunity? It was like the next day or something
Yeah.
like that by the time that they reached out, and by then they were no longer looked at in a positive way, I think, from it. It was all like, oh, you guys dropped the ball. Because, so there it goes.
Yeah, you do have to be on the ball. You can tell what companies, if you've done this before, if you've tweeted something before about it, you can tell what companies are very social media savvy and are monitoring and have a staff that not only are looking at these things, but are empowered to react to them
Right.
without having to go through the bureaucracy of the corporation.
Yeah,
And
because that's the old way.
Because timing is crucial.
Yeah.
And you want to get back to those, negative perceptions, especially the negative perceptions, with, expediency.
Right.
So, anyway, we'll be back with more Reputation Wrap after a short break. Happy Independence Day, and we'll see you in a minute.
Simply Gents, located in Marlton, New Jersey, takes care of all your grooming needs, including haircuts, straight razor shaves, massages, facial, manicures, pedicures, and waxing. To find more information or book an appointment, visit us online at www.simplygents.com. The secret weapon of a well-groomed man, Simply Gents.
When it's time for Jersey Mike's to make a really great sub, this is what we do. It's what we've been doing. It's what we've always done. It's what we'll always do. So what are you doing? Jersey Mike's. Be a a sub above.
Today's show has been sponsored by More Than Gifts. Come see our new location in Marlton, New Jersey. Not just gifts, but more.
Today's show was brought to you by Alicia Kelly of White Horse RV Center in Williamstown, New Jersey. Alicia is your RV expert. Contact Alicia at whitehorserv.com or give her a call at 856-262-1717, extension 203. When you think of RV, think Alicia Kelly.
When it's time for Jersey Mike's to give a sub some sizzle, this is the way. The way it's always been. The way it always should be. The way it always will be. Because that's just the way it's supposed to be. Jersey Mike's. Be a sub above.
Extra Innings is the nation's premier indoor baseball and softball training center, featuring indoor batting cages, 7 multi-use tunnels, and training rooms. Extra Innings can provide professional instruction, private and group lessons, and the best year-round clinics. Along with a nationally recognized pro shop that features the latest and widest selection of equipment and apparel, our experienced staff can provide you with the right instruction and help you find the best equipment for your ability and budget. Extra Innings, where the game never ends.
Today's show has been sponsored by More Than Gifts. Come see our new location in Marlton, New Jersey. Not just gifts, but more. Today's show has been sponsored by Farmers Insurance in Voorhees, New Jersey. To protect your assets and the people you love, call Mike Skoranek, your local Farmers Insurance agent, at 856-336-2553.
We are farmers. Bum, ba-dum, bum, 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 bum.
Welcome back to Reputation Rap on Radio Vision Network Morning Coffee. Gary Frisch here with Biz and Mark. We're talking about public relations and HR PR, and I wanted to segue into a couple things that are going on in terms of responding to consumers. A significant issue in terms of PR for any organization is safety and consumer well-being, and right now IKEA is in the midst of a recall of 36 million of these cabinets, dressers.
Well, I was wondering how many kids were going to have to die, before they did that. Because this has been going on for quite a long time.
The count was 7. Seven children lost their lives as a result of this, and only now is IKEA acting to pull these off the market.
So just backtrack for a second and give Biz the background because on what was happening.
Well, these have been on for sale for quite some time, but they're a tip-over hazard, and they are supposed to be anchored to the wall.
It's a dresser. It's a dresser that wasn't. It was top heavy. So when kids,
especially when the drawers are pulled out,
right?
Then it was.
And
You know how kids climb and play on things, right? So it
vibration.
wasn't stable, and what was happening is if a kid did anything to any of the drawers, it would tip down forward.
Oh my goodness.
And that's what he's saying is that 7 children lost their life before IKEA responded and
with the
recalled the
recall.
entire line.
Now here's the thing, the instructions for this line of dressers included, and the hardware is included to anchor it to the wall.
That thing that you right.
A little hinge. You just anchor it with 2 screws to the.
And it's
piece
like a little
of the
chain
wall.
that
Most
goes.
people, when they buy dressers in this country, are not doing that.
Right.
They don't want to put holes in the wall to put a dresser up. They basically glossed over the instruction in the assembly manual. However, IKEA can't shift the blame to consumers for not doing that. It's just an issue of poor design, and they needed to expect that here, maybe in other places, consumers are more prone to anchoring furniture to the wall, but Americans, we just don't normally do that.
Right.
So they in a rudimentary way tried to say, hey, it's in the instructions, if it's properly, assembled, then this isn't an issue.
Tell a grieving mother that, right?
Exactly. So they initiated the recall, and it's good that they finally got around to doing that. bad that the URL for information on the recall had a misprint in it, and so a lot of customers, it was missing a letter in the URL they issued, and they just had to correct this. So that was a misstep as well, and that just kind of exacerbated.
So they basically released a website for everybody to go to be able to handle the recall, and it was the wrong
And
link.
now they're apologizing for the error in the
What a
URL.
mess.
And
What a mess.
customers typically have not been able to get through on the recall hotline. So now they're backpedaling, and they're promising to call back. Open up message lines, because previously you couldn't leave a message, and now they're offering to call back people who leave a message and try to fix the situation, answer all their questions.
What kind of impact? Is this $1 billion impact on that company?
It could be a very big impact. I mean, the cost of the actual recall itself is going to be very significant, because they're basically offering to buy back every dresser. But the cost and reputation and potential
Lawsuits.
lost business, and of course lawsuits as well. And they've already probably begun those lawsuits.
Yeah.
It's going to be very costly.
It's crazy.
But to their credit, they did act. I'm not sure how long a period of time these incidents were occurring. I'm not sure when it got on their radar. But to act and to act decisively is the important thing for any business to do. And they have to do it in a way that puts the consumer first.
You can't blame the customer.
Basically, and you can't blame the customer.
Yeah.
Basically, you need to throw out all profit considerations and loss considerations, and do what's right to fix the situation first. Chipotle did a reasonably good job by pulling their suspect ingredients and issuing a warning, and knowing that they were going to lose a lot of business in the short term. The classic example and the textbook example that's still being taught today is in 1982, when Tylenol was laced with cyanide in the Chicago area. McNeil, a division of Johnson & Johnson, acted very quickly once they became aware that this was happening, and 7 people died in that occurrence as well. They pulled all Tylenol product from the shelves across the country. They issued warnings. I mean, for heaven's sake, they had police vehicles driving down streets with loudspeakers telling people, not to take Tylenol.
Yeah, throw it out.
Because they didn't know the nature or the scope of the problem.
How widespread.
And to this day, nobody's ever been arrested for that either.
Yeah, that's crazy.
But today, and they lost millions in sales, and there are people who prognosticated that they would never come back from it, and the Tylenol brand was dead. But they took decisive action quickly. They instituted a triple safety seal on their products. And young people today don't realize it, but every product that has a safety seal on it, which is just about every consumable product, is a result of the Tylenol incident.
Yep.
And Tylenol and Johnson & Johnson rebounded fairly quickly after that. And as you know, Tylenol is a very esteemed brand to this day as a result.
It was because of how they handled it. I mean, it was because of experts like you got out in front of the situation and were like, look, this could bury our entire company. We need to get out in front and get on top of it now, or the damage, the wake of this damage is gonna it's gonna be long lasting, and we're never gonna be able to recover. So I'll tell you that's one where they get a little bit of credit for, right?
Yeah,
I gotta mention, Gary, I finally went back to Chipotle. It was almost exactly a year, and look, I'm still here, right? I'm still here. I made it. I didn't get E. coli. So they are doing the things that are slowly getting people like me. It took a full year for me to get back to Chipotle.
And they're betting that more people will come back to Chipotle, and they're offering free products as part of this loyalty program now. You have to eat there several times a
12
month.
times, I think it is.
To get the full benefits, yeah. 10 or 11 or 12 times.
Something like that. You know what? Maybe it's more like 8. I forget. But you buy a certain number of burritos. They punch your card, and then you get the free one, right?
You get a free, some kind of freebie after the 4th, 7th, and 11th visit, I think, in the 30-day period. And so, that's a way to get current customers back in the door, maybe to dine more, and maybe to draw back some other people who weren't into Chipotle to begin with.
Right.
I would say they had a really solid fan base to begin with. I don't think that a mom and pop smaller chain would have been able to survive that level of, I guess, bad publicity.
No,
That's what
they
just-
wouldn't
I mean,
have.
there's people who they love Chipotle. I mean,
Yeah.
I really still love Chipotle. I like the way it tastes, and I'll probably go back. I haven't yet, but I'll probably
you will
will.
Well,
eventually.
and that
But-
speaks to what we talked about a couple weeks ago
Yeah.
with Disney. They had a built-up equity of fans and,
Yeah.
and goodwill, so they were able to somewhat weather the storm, and they're still bouncing back from it. But,
Right.
anyway, it's been great talking to you on this July weekend.
Why does it always go so fast, Gary?
Yeah, I guess I talk fast, maybe.
No, because it's so interesting. That's what you were supposed to say.
I'm Gary Fish with Swordfish Communications. I'm online at www.swordfishcomm.com. Thank you, Mark and Biz, for a wonderful conversation this morning.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And, we'll see you soon.